For decades, protecting nature meant drawing a circle on a map. We found a small meadow or an old-growth wood, fenced it off, and left the surrounding landscape entirely to agriculture. Those isolated pockets created invisible boundaries. Animals trapped inside these fragments can't easily migrate to find new territory or hunt across wider ranges. Over time, this isolation causes genetic bottlenecks. A genetic bottleneck is a sharp reduction in a population size that severely limits genetic diversity, making the species vulnerable to disease and environmental changes. To fix this, we have to stop treating conservation sites like isolated museum exhibits. Instead, we need to treat the environment like a biological infrastructure project, where every field and hedge is connected into a cohesive living system. That is exactly what is happening in East Devon with the Salcombe Regis project. The goal here is to physically bridge the gap between the steep, dramatic cliffs of the Jurassic Coast and the rolling hills further inland. To make this work, the National Trust has abandoned the old metric of simply counting the raw number of trees planted. Success is now measured by the degree of physical connectivity achieved, building a continuous green highway across the terrain. If local ecosystems are going to adapt to a shifting climate, preserving them in a static state guarantees failure. Nature requires the physical infrastructure to move. Combe Farm sits right in the middle of this proposed route. The site has entered an active delivery phase, transforming from standard agricultural land into the primary biological bridge for the entire region. The functional infrastructure relies on heavy, targeted planting. Teams have installed 4,500 trees and 300 meters of thick hedgerows. These lines of vegetation literally mesh the separated farms together, providing a covered, protected route for local species. We already have proof that this valley corridor is working. The team recently installed nesting boxes for barn owls and kestrels, and these apex predators are actively returning to hunt along the connected thoroughfare. Further inland sits Coombe Head Wood. If the hedgerows are the cables of this network, Coombe Head Wood is the core area. It acts as a high-quality biological server, exporting heavy concentrations of biodiversity down through the green highways. Maintaining that high biological quality requires some highly counterintuitive management. Specifically, the team goes out of their way to preserve standing dead wood. Standard commercial forestry usually removes upright dead trees because they look untidy. But rotting timber is the crucial missing link in the food chain. It provides the exact habitat required for specialized fungi and beetles, which in turn recycle nutrients and feed the surrounding birds and mammals. When you are engineering a biological network, a decaying, untidy forest is actually the hallmark of a mature, high-functioning ecosystem. Operating a landscape-scale network requires a mix of strategies. Sometimes it means stepping back and watching, and sometimes it requires heavy, active intervention. Take the abandoned Christmas tree plantation on the property. Felled over the last few years, the 2026 management plan dictates a purely passive approach, natural regeneration. Dictated commercial rows of timber create a monoculture that supports very little wildlife. A monoculture is the agricultural practice of growing a single crop or plant species in a given area at a time. By letting nature take the lead, the old plantation is naturally evolving into a messy, varied scrubland that hosts a dense variety of life. In contrast, South Combe Farm applies a highly active approach. Here, agriculture is integrated directly into the conservation network through regenerative farming. Regenerative farming is an agricultural method that focuses on improving soil health, biodiversity, and the water cycle while producing food. The secret weapon here is a herd of hardy cattle. Grazed at low densities, they act as landscape architects, providing necessary natural disturbance. Their hooves physically break up dominant, aggressive grasses that usually choke out smaller, weaker species. That trampling opens up the exact pockets of light and space that rare wildflowers need to germinate and thrive. By combining this targeted grazing with robust soil health, the site proves that high-quality food production and a thriving ecological network can coexist within the exact same footprint. Zooming out to the macro scale of the Salcombe network reveals the final layer of this infrastructure, the human network. A management team recognizes that humans aren't separate from this ecosystem. They are mapping permissive walking paths directly onto the wildlife corridors, linking the coastal footpaths straight through the inland farms and woods. As a visitor walks these trails, the physical changes to the landscape are obvious. Farmers have physically pushed their fences back, widening the green margins to accommodate both species migration and human exploration side by side. These landscape changes also serve a strict mathematical purpose for the National Trust's 2030 net zero target. Net zero is an environmental goal where the amount of greenhouse gases removed from the atmosphere is equal to the amount emitted by human activity. By optimizing the soil in these interconnected pastures, the ground itself acts as a massive carbon sink. The next time you look out over a managed agricultural landscape, try not to see it as a rigid series of separate fenced-off fields. True conservation is the slow, deliberate engineering of a singular, connected wild. It is a landscape constantly in motion.